guess on slow number 2, I just want to deal, there are a number of them, but I want to deal with the concept of to give service to improve the lives of others in the community. There's a concept, clearly, and again, this is not a Valley Torah concept. Everything that's on that page and all of the slows that we embrace are Torah concepts. And the idea of giving to the community, being community-minded, of giving back to the community, takes on many, many different aspects. But I want to focus in on this concept of Avram Avinu in this week's Parsha. Because Avram Avinu, the famous pasuk that sort of gives us an image of what drove this man, how he became the father of the Jewish people, and how he literally changed the world over one person with one ability to stand firm and to stand strong. Nefesh hash'asu b'charan. Avram Avinu comes to Eretz Yisrael, and who did he take with him? The souls that he made in Haran. What do you mean he made in Haran? You make his soul? What do you mean you made his soul? God creates souls. God creates people. How did Avram Avinu make souls? And the famous Chazal explains, Rabbi saying, this is something that, again, I know you're young yet, you're saying it's not my job, but trust me, even now, in your position as teenagers, you can make this type of incredible difference in the world as well. Avram Avinu understood one thing. There is no greater desire in the part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu for our purpose in this world than to make souls, to inspire people, to uplift people, to give people that sense of truth and sense of awareness of what life is about. There's no greater gift. And if you listen to people and you look around the world a little bit, and you see that the greatest level of hakaras hatov that people have to somebody else is somebody else who opened up their eyes to truth. Somebody else who's able to inspire them to embrace a lifestyle that gives them happiness, that gives them a focus, that gives them a mission. That's the greatest gift you can give them. So Avram Avinu understood after he came to the recognition, whether you learn he was 3 years old or later than 3, it's machlokas Rishonim, but at the end of the day, when Avram Avinu came to that recognition that there's a God in the world, and then it came to a deeper recognition of what does God want from me in this world. Once I know that I'm not just some kind of paramisim that just happened to by a quirk show up in the world in an inexplicable fashion. So I know that God created me, so what is my tafkid? What is my purpose? And he understood that just like that HaKadosh Baruch Hu spends his day, so to speak, doing chesed to people, Avram Avinu understood that that's my job. My job is to do chesed. My job is to change the lives of people in a positive way and give them life, so to speak, which is exactly what God did for us. I must do to everybody else, to as many people who are willing to listen. And therefore, the expression "Vanefesh hash'asu b'charan," this incredible terminology that Avram Avinu made people. Because when you give them a sense of what's really important, and you can. Obviously, our job and your parents' job, we have a joint partnership here of trying to inspire all of you to a life of commitment, to a life of service to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to give you a sense of being community-minded. And again, the community could be the overall American community, but more specifically, Rabbi said, to the Jewish community. And your service doesn't necessarily have to mean, it could be chesed and volunteering and becoming a teacher. There could be so many different types of services to the community. But no matter what you do, and this is something very, very important, and my Rebbe, and our Rebbe, Rabbi Henoch Leibowitz, who sort of was a champion of Habatz's Torah. Chavetz Chaim Yeshiva is known for the last 50, 60 years that they have produced so many teachers who go out in Klal Yisrael. And it's part of a vision that the Yeshiva had in teaching his students his responsibility. Be a Rebbe, be a Rav, be a Kiruv professional. Go out and change the world on a spiritual level. But while at the same time, while he stood for that and certainly inspired so many of us to do that, he also reminded us to be a Marbitz Torah. You want to spread Torah, you want to spread truth, you want to make a difference to people. It's not about your career choice. It's about an attitude. It's about what you do with your life. You can be a doctor. You know how many doctors have been Mekadesh Shem Shemayim in the way they conduct themselves? You know how many lawyers or business people in the way they conduct themselves, in the way they act, the way they are moral, the way they talk to people? It's about a frame of mind that my job is to Mekadesh Shem Shemayim. My job is to inspire other people. And so great is that responsibility, Rabbi say, it's a mind-boggling chazal. But here you know the story about the fight between the shepherds of Lot and the shepherds of Avram Avinu. You all learned about that in elementary school. And you all know that Lot said, Avram Avinu said, this is not going to work. He purred no in my life. I see your shepherds want to steal grass and grain from other fields, and I don't want you to do that. My shepherds are against it. Got into a fight. Avram says, okay, you know what? We got to separate. Sounds pretty logical. Sounds pretty fair that you have to separate. After all, Avram Avinu is not getting along with Lot. And yet, what does our Chazal say about Avram Avinu's statement? He parayed no ma'elai. Please separate from me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said scathing words to Avram Avinu, one of the greatest people of our history, and yet says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Avram Avinu as he got angry at Avram. Ka'asolov, says the Chazal, says the Medrash. He got angry at Avram. And the words were, you can save the whole world, but you can't save your own nephew, you can't save Lot. Everybody else is being Makarev and Lot, you say he pardoned all my lie. Avram, you should have figured out a way to keep him next to you. How you let this Jew just wander away? You got to hold him close. You got to hold him strong close to you. This is Lot who was in a downward spiral. This is Lot who Rashi says when once Lot left Avram Avinu, what happened? HaKadosh Baruch Hu started to speak to Avram again. That means Lot's presence prevented the Shekhinah from connecting to Avram Avinu. When you're around people who are in a downward spiral, that blocks the Kedusha. That's why your friends are so important. Choosing the right people to hang around with is critical. Because you can start wondering, why is my spiritual level not the same as it used to be? Well, maybe look around. Obviously, first look in the mirror. But after you look in the mirror, maybe start looking around. And if you're hanging around people that sort of block that positive spiritual connection, that's devastating. So here, Avram Avinu had apparently every justification to say to Lot, he pardoned him alive. Say to Lot, please, this is not working. Get out of my domain. Get out of my neighborhood. Find a place to go. Seems very reasonable. But Hashem says, no. It's not reasonable. Mistake, Avram. I appreciate you trying to save the world. But you don't apparently fully recognize the extent of what your responsibility is. And even though you might have a nephew who's not doing the right thing, and he's giving you a lot of aggravation, your job is to keep him close. And that's why Avram was also criticized after the war. He saved Lot. And he gave everything over to the king of Sodom, and he said, I don't want anything, and he even let the captives that he took, he gave them back in war. The ones who were taken captive, and he let them all go, gave them back. And again, Abram was criticized. You can't give them back. These are people that you can influence. These are people you can teach. These are people that you can expose to the proper way of life. Because when you give a person truth, everybody's side, when you open up his heart to the purpose of life, when you connect him to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's nothing greater than that. There's no greater gift you can give a person. And that's why by the time we finish, after 4 years, just getting back to those expected outcomes, when we have you here for 4 years, and obviously there's a lot of curriculum that we focus in upon, and there's a lot of other stuff that we do both on an academic level and a fun level. We're taking the 9th graders to San Diego. We're expecting an incredible time, and we're looking forward to so much fun. But at the end of the day, it's every single thing we do. And I'm telling you, as a 9th grader, as you're about to embark, you're focused on the good times. But I'm telling you, when you walk into that shul in San Diego, and those people look at this group of 9th graders, and we've done this trip many, many, many times. And every single time, practically, I don't think there's an exception where people come over and say, wow, how inspiring. And you might have a person who might be in shul for the very first time and sees a bunch of 9th graders walking in with a level of derech eretz, a level of respect, sitting there properly in shul. Rabbi Semel just told me yesterday that a group went to Krispy Kreme, and a person comes over and says, I can't believe it. 15 guys actually conversing in a Krispy Kreme place, and without each one in their own little world with cell phones diving into their own private little sanctum, actually being able to communicate. He says, I can't believe it. This takes me back 25, 30 years ago. The guy literally could not believe what I was looking at. He says, what do you guys do? This is a miracle. This is the world we're living in. This is the world we're living in. You go look around, you go to a restaurant, how many people are actually just on their phones and just almost, they're going out for a family meal, but there's no family. Because everyone's in their own world, playing their own little games. So I say the idea of teaching the concept of connecting. You can connect directly, you can connect by the way you act. You walk into a shul, you're connecting because people are looking at you. And they are looking. You got that yarmulke on your head, you go to Valley Torah High School, they're looking, they say, whoa, this is the highest representation that Klal Yisrael has. Let's take a look. What are we seeing? That's why the activities in the hotel are so critical, that we make a Kiddush Hashem. All of these things make a difference. You have no idea. One small act can make such a difference. I've said that story so many times. A Jew is standing by the kosel and he's davening and he's praying to God, and who knows what's going on with his life, but he's praying with such fervor and such emotion. And a Jew from Dallas, Texas, with a big cowboy hat on his head, was visiting Jerusalem and Israel and doing his typical missions as they do. A lot of these secular Jews do. And he sees this Jew and he's so moved that he says, when I go back to Dallas, I'm walking into a serious Jewish institution. I'm making a $10,000 donation, which at the time was a very hefty donation. And that Jew, being inspired by that holy Jew praying at the wall, shaking with such sincere fervor and crying out to God, made the difference between Dallas, Texas, having a shul. And Rabbi Roden was able to complete his shul, who's now, Baruch Hashem, he's still there after over 30 years. Many people go to Dallas. No, Rabbi Roden, he's one of the main Rabbanim there in Dallas, Texas. His shul was completed because of a guy walking in pretty much off the street, writing out a $10,000 check to Rabbi Roden because he was inspired by the way a Jew davened. And that Jew will never know. That Jew's going to have to wait till after 120 years to figure out that his davening that particular afternoon at the Kotel made a difference in Dallas, Texas. And all the Jews who are praying in that shul, who have now room to do what they need to do and to learn Torah, all that is because of the Jews' sincere davening. That's Kiddush Hashem. That's having an idea of my commitment and my responsibility to the community.
Just going back to that thing from earlier, so should we be like Abraham, who kind of pushed away those because he's walking with spirituality, or should we try to connect with people and try to reach this?
It's a great question. It's a great question, and bottom line is, when you're in these situations, you really have to navigate it with rabbinic involvement, with people who have experience, because there are times that a kid is either too young or a situation is too overwhelming, and you can't handle it. And you have to say goodbye. Obviously, because Baruch Hu was saying to Avram, you could have handled it. You were able to do it, and you could have kept Lot. And you know what? Even though I don't speak to you when Lot's around, it's okay. Certain things are worth giving up. Doesn't mean that we can run into any situation and say, you know what, my job is to, try to inspire Jews. I'm going to put myself in harm's way, right, and hang out, right outside the, full array just to macabre everybody. That won't work, okay? That won't work. So you got to figure it out. You got to know, you have to ask a shaila and know what you do and what you don't do. So Rabbi Isai, let's take this to heart. Let's understand that our commitment, our responsibility does not start when we're 25 or 35 or 45. It starts when we are bar mitzvah. We are part of Klal Yisrael, officially. And our job is to mekadesh Shem Shemayim and to bring people closer. And we do it by acting in a way that's positive. Yes, we can do it next week. What's going to be happening? The Shabbos Project. The big theme of the entire Klal Yisrael next week is going to be get somebody over at your table on Shabbos. Invite somebody. It's going to be challah bakes all over the world. Thousands of women all over the world are going to be sitting on Thursday night in shuls and communities baking challahs. And it's an incredibly beautiful weekend of incredible kiruv that goes on. But the Shabbos Project is not a Shabbos a one Shabbos project. It's a project that hopefully should stimulate all of us to be aware that that's who we are all year round. And if we can invite people at our homes for a meal, that's great. But even if you can't, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you walk into a 7-Eleven, the way you buy stuff in a mini-mart, everything that you do, trust me, is under a microscope. They are looking at us. Maybe more importantly, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking at us and saying, how are my children going to behave? Are they going to make a Kiddush Hashem? Or God forbid something else? So Be'ez Hashem, let's internalize this critical idea. You see how important it is. The nephew Hashem also Bukhar, let's emulate Abram Avinu, that's supposed to be Zochah Be'ez Hashem, to be as Mashiach Mehem B'Meim.